Alright, what is up YouTube? Welcome to Tom's first peak week. So we're going to do a bit of a different session today, be a hybrid mix amongst the content of Tom's depletion session. So we've got a push arm day for him. At this point really it's just pulling down a lot of intensity, a lot of training, proximity to failure. Basically we're pushing like 3 to 4 RIR, 2 top sets, maybe per exercise. And then we'll move into my push session as well afterwards. So we get a lot of content of him, looking as flat and depleted as he is now. I'm sure he feels like a bag of dicks. I don't really need to ask him that, but I'm sure he'll tell you. Yeah, we'll pretty much go through that, go through a session, watch him get a little bit pumped up, do some posing. Today is his fat load day, so we'll be starting his fats to go in, and then the carbs will be starting on Wednesday and Thursday. Show day is Saturday. So Friday is going to be a bit of a hold day. If we get the look that we want and the body fills up nicely, we'll hold with whatever calories we need to on Friday. But yeah, so got fats got in today, carbs got in tomorrow and Thursday. And for this session, we're going to do like a bit of a pump up, high volume, high blood session really, try and deplete glycogen some more, drive fats where we need to, and then he can fuck off and sleep, or actually no, he's got work, so he can go home. Yeah, that's pretty much it. Nice and simple. Look over him, get naked. I'll do my training, answer some questions. Yeah, let's do that. Given we're coming into peak week, so we've got a mixture of questions here actually. What is your game plan for water and sodium leading into show day? Tom, what are you currently doing at the moment that we've got into your protocol?
So, been pretty consistent already anyway. We've been tracking sodium for the last week, or actually probably the last couple of weeks. Because I was eating the same foods and stuff every time anyway. All we did was actually measure out the salt, and again, stayed pretty simple. So 8,000 milligrams, or 8 grams of sodium, and half that in potassium, so 4,000 milligrams. Water also has been pretty consistent. I was pretty consistently doing about 8 or 9 liters a day, which is a lot, but that's just what happens in prep when you're hungry and you use liquid to fill your stomach. So I'm still doing that pretty consistently, obviously. So all I'm doing is now tracking that 100%. Hence why I just bought a 1 litre shaker bottle, so I know. I just keep track of how many I've had. Yeah, so 8 litres a day. Goes with the 8 grams of salt, 8 grams of sodium, and the 4 grams of potassium.
Yeah,
and
so
that won't change.
Yeah, the only thing that's going to change from that is Friday. The only time that I manipulate water and sodium for someone in his condition and situation, since we've regulated the whole time, will be at about lunchtime, 1 o'clock-ish on Friday. Water comes down and all we do is kind of run it at like a sips per meal sort of level. Sodium gets kind of halved, potassium halved down from that. Idea that we're trying to push is that we get the body and the system responsive to a high threshold of water, sodium intake, and then we balance the ion exchange between sodium and potassium. And then by the time that stops, the system's in such a process that we induce natural diuresis by having the body continually flow and go to the bathroom. So by first thing Saturday morning, he should have pissed out a fair amount of weight, fair amount of fluid. The idea is that with sodium and potassium, you want to pull as much water into the muscle cell as possible and then flush out whatever's left and isn't needed. So the idea of then stopping the water, forces him to the toilet, pisses everything out, flushes out of the system. What is needed stays in the muscle, what isn't should be nice and tight and basically end up in the toilet. So that's where the only hydration protocol strategy that I run is just making sure that we've standardized and hydrated properly, and then we pull down the day before the show. That's about it.
Zero pump.
Yeah, so the only intention of these sessions really is we're trying to focus on driving glycogen, blood sugar, get glycogen utilized into the muscle cell properly and deplete the body as much as possible so that it's primed to fill up as we get close to our carbo strategy. So he's not chasing massive sessions here, we're not chasing massive workouts or RAR closer to 1. You're not going to grow tissue in a week like this. The body's too deprived, too stressed, too exhausted. So really all we're doing now is just moving food around, moving the blood around, getting a pump, and then we load the food middle of the week. How do you hold on to muscle while stripping fat in the back end of prep? Drugs. It's a test, a trend, these simple stuff. No, the easiest way to hold and preserve muscle tissue is tell your body that you need it. So that's why we start to increase protein in the back end of someone's diet and contest prep, 2.5 to 3 grams per kilogram, and make sure you're training with a close proximity of failure. Make sure you're signaling hypertrophy to tell the body that you actually need the muscle tissue. So training hard, training strong. I run off the philosophy that the strength it took to build it is usually the strength it takes to keep it. So you try to drive the stimulus, the volume, or the load to make that possible. So it's not complicated, it's just hard to do because you don't want to train hard when you're hungry. So train hard. Good. Yeah. As you can see, there's nothing to it. He's got nothing in the tank. Right now, the only thing that you're primed for in a session in like a week like this is injury. So that is already a hard set. That's already gonna be more than sufficient for what we're trying to achieve. Trying to come in here and push like PBs, if you haven't been doing that the whole time and drug load isn't high enough and food load isn't high enough, is not gonna sustain or achieve what you want it to, and just increase the risk of muscle tears and damage long term. So the back end of a prep, it's more like preservation than it is driving stimulus. Like we want to maintain stimulus, obviously, yes, but like most of it now, like how many weeks have you been kind of feeling like this for, where it's like not optimal to try and push PBs?
At least the last couple of weeks, yeah. I was definitely still hitting numbers, probably, especially upper body, I was hitting numbers still up to 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
Legs probably started falling away about 3.5 weeks ago, I would say. And fatigue was just a real big factor there. So, but yeah, that's probably where our weight started to drop to.
Yeah.
Realistically, so it was always going to happen on a harsher timeline.
Yeah. Yeah, that's the other side too, is obviously this is the most aggressive timeline we've done, so it does come with its risks. Pros and cons, you don't have to diet as long, but you'll have to diet a little bit harder. Yeah, okay.
And then I'd put it behind my back on that.
Just get more of like a kind of high to mid inversion fly. For movements like this, I more prefer a seated position, but just trying to maximize stretch, drive it as much range of motion as possible, maximize glycogen and the muscle itself, what we're trying to achieve. So something like this, you can kind of come forward a bit more, a bit easier, doesn't require as much setup. Something like the seated cable fly or the other pec deck stuff, we've already driven that already. We can get more clavicular upper pec in this position here, I find. So getting that, coming forward more of a convergence position, and just a better stretch, I just find a bit easier. Here's a good question, Thomas. Should a coach sugarcoat it or tell the brutal truth even if it hurts the client?
Well, Well, I think that answer is pretty obvious. Realistically, it should just be honest. This isn't the sport for sugarcoating.
Yeah. Although it can be, it is. People make it, but it shouldn't be.
Don't get me wrong, you should understand the client and how they operate. Like, if mentally, if you tell them, be like, no, you shit or whatever, they're gonna, and that's just gonna be negative in their performance and everything, then no, obviously, but it's, the judges aren't gonna sugarcoat stuff.
Yeah.
Social media ain't sugarcoating shit, so at the end of the day, if you're not mentally resilient enough to handle hearing what you're paying someone essentially to tell you.
Yeah. Are you paying someone to tell you what you want to hear or the truth?
Yeah.
That's the thing, I think in this sport, I think because it's become so socially normal, like everyone has to prep at some point. It's like we've all got to be passive and soft around the honesty around it. But then you get on stage, the judge is going to tell you you're still fat. The person next to you is going to move in because they're leaner or in a better position. So like,
yeah, and the problem is, it's like if you come from a circle that isn't involved in it, your family and friends probably have never seen someone as lean as you do get, even if you're not properly stage lean.
Yeah.
So they're going to be like, you look fucking fantastic, and that you probably do. But it depends what circle you're standing in.
Yeah.
So you need to be prepared to be the fact that there's probably always going to be someone better, like leaner, someone bigger, whatever it is. So
that's kind of why you come into a coach, right? Like you want the coach's eye to be honest with you, so that's why you're paying them. Obviously the programming, structure, systems, but like when it comes to stage, when it comes to being photo shoot lean, you want that coach to be honest and say, actually you're still pretty fat. Actually we've got a fair way to go. We need to dig more.
Yeah, and ideally your coach just says that at the start.
Yeah.
So then those comments become less and less because you're actually doing the plan.
You're improving, you're getting better.
You're getting better.
Trying to make it a bit more fun, like just like bro split it.
No, it's fine. I'm just pushing through.
Yeah.
And like I am trying to, like this, besides the leg session, I am actually just trying to, it's not like 4 hour, it's kind of like I'm getting to the point where I can't squeeze anymore, and it's like, that's it. Because I think like last time too, I think I backed off way too much last time, like last prep, where it was kind of like, we're doing pumps, but it's like then are you losing tissue because I'm not trying hard enough.
What's that, sorry?
How do you do dips? They're too functional. I don't know how to do them. Everything's definitely feeling like it's empty. Like that's for sure. Like even like I just hit each pose once in the morning when I get up, obviously.
Yeah.
And like I just did a side chest this morning, and I was like, there's just nothing there.
How do we do a carb load in peak week? Like as a client, what do you feel when you have a carb, like fat load, preload fats, and then whatever carb strategy we use? Like how does that come across to you when you see it filling up across the day?
Yeah, so I mean, like in contrast, like right now, so like I'm depleted as I've been. I hit new low this morning by 1 kilo. So there's like just nothing left. And when I pose and try and flex or tense or whatever, I have essentially very little feeling in the muscle. I don't feel like anything's popping out. It's kind of like yes, you can see lines and striations and that where you need to, but in terms of the skin bursting and looking full to really bring that out more, it's just non-existent. So in comparison, when you do fill up and you use your carb load strategy, realistically, you're not, the fat isn't coming back, right? So all you're doing is filling the actual muscle to press harder on the skin.
Yeah.
So then you're looking fuller. That actually brings those striations out more, and it just gives the muscle a pop and actually makes you look bigger, like in just that peak moment. So yeah, I mean, that's the strategy. And man, it feels so much better. I'll put it that way. Even like in like last carb up, last prep, we hit a point where like we were doing a lot more carbs that time. It was like 1,000 grams in a day. And at one point in that, I remember sending you a thing and I was like, oh, this is what full feels like for the first time.
Yeah.
Because everything was just like, I could just like
Bursting.
flex a little bit and everything just felt like Hulk.
Yeah.
So that's what we aim for.
Good.
Let's put it this way. At the moment, I'm pushing it like purely using how I know it should feel to contract the muscle, to try and contract the muscle.
Should be all shoulder joint, right?
But all it is feeling like joints. So
There should be a grinding sensation, right?
hence why it's slow and controlled and not just pumping it out.
Some light arm work now.
Yeah.
So a really easy cue here with like a depletion session is as you're training, contracting, focus on or visualize if you're trying to drive the glycogen in the blood to the muscle itself. Just focus on squeezing, like you're trying to push the food out of your bloodstream into the muscle you're working. Easiest way to kind of visualize the intention of a depletion session. Yeah, you can see here now that the shirt's off, like the dryness to his skin's coming through, so he's drier, he's leaning, he's depleting. Like you can see the vascularity in his skin, but what you can't see as much detail of is like that pop, like the pop look to the muscle itself. Like Tom has big arms and shoulders, so it starts to already look like it's popping, but with the food going in over the next couple of days, what you'll find is that starts to really fill up and almost like it's gonna feel like a bursting feeling. So what's a good sign of how lean Tom is that even without a large amount of sodium, large amount of carbs, fat depletion, things like that, and these types of sessions, is we're still seeing a decent amount of vascularity come through. All right. So we're still seeing a good indication of conditioning here coming through, and then once the food goes in, that'll really start to emphasize more.
Do you get the shot?
So as you would have seen by now, these sessions really aren't anything intense. They're intense because Tom takes them to a proximity of failure, not because they're intensity of exercise selection, sets, volume, things like that. So you can still train hard with the program we have for this, but we're driving depletion, not trying to build tissue. The other thing we do with peak week training is also I strategically front load the volume. So larger muscle groups get done first to drive, like if they are going to be the most fatiguing, most fluid stimulating, like the inflammation response, I want that out by the time we get to Saturday. So legs Sunday, back Monday, chest, small arms on Tuesday, shoulders because they're a smaller muscle group, there's more to work and more to volumize, and then a very small arm session, some supersets on Thursday just to drive the refeed. But we're not, as we get closer to the show, we're not pushing the bigger muscle groups, trying to grow muscle or drive stimulus. It's just let the body relax and deplete that inflammation response and try and let the body pop for show day. And it gives everyone, it gives them like a good like bro split training for a week.
Well, everyone likes how they look when they train arms,
Yeah.
right? Even though training arms is boring.
Yeah. The old, when you're a junior coming up and you're like, oh, I want to train arms every day, and then you just get tired of training arms, it's boring as fuck.
It is very boring.
You lose connection after the third set.
The only way you'd ever do a dedicated arm day, to me, is if you severely lacked arms.
Yeah.
Or
So me.
you hit everything else on every other day and you legit just want an extra day in the
Yeah.
gym. And you have the ability
Small
to
accessory
recover.
day.
You
Yeah.
have the ability to recover.
Yeah, so one of the things that you don't want to do in peak week is introduce foods that aren't digestible, haven't tolerated, or you haven't had before. So with the fat load, carb load, we're just using foods that we either know will sit well with Tom, or are foods that he's used at some point in the prep that have digested well. So for most people, it ends up being things like low cruciferous, low fibrous veg, because you don't want to be full, you don't want to slow down digestion for the most part. And in terms of carbohydrates, like you want to make sure it's easily processed, digested, and absorbed. So rices, cream of rices, fruit spreads like jams, honeys, those sort of things that make it really easy to absorb. A good mixture of fructose and glucose so the body can process and digest it, and then pair it with sodium for maximum uptake. So we're not introducing anything crazy. Again, he's still got like a film of water to him right now, which is good because it means sodium intake's right, fluid intake is good. We're flat without the food being in yet. His body's definitely primed and like screaming to pop. It's just now needing the food to be able to do that. So fats will go in today, and then carbs will start tomorrow and Thursday. We introduce some dandelion extract, vitamin C, that'll really help with diuresis and fluid drop. And then come Friday, it just all pisses out, and we wake up Saturday morning nice and fresh. Fresh is the wrong word. We wake up dry. Do what you possibly can. At what point do you call out a client's excuses versus letting them learn the hard way? It's a fair question. For me, it's got a lot to do with the goals they tell me they're coming for. Very early on, I took a lot of people at their word, and it was a lesson I learned very quickly and adjusted. A lot of people will tell you, they'll sell you the dream as a perfect client, and it's your job as a coach almost to like dissect what's true and what's not, if that person actually aligns with what they're saying. If someone comes to me and tells me they want to be a pro bodybuilder or get on stage or be an elite bodybuilder, that's the standard that I hold them to, and so therefore they'll be held accountable to that system. Meaning if they're missing check-ins or data's off or simple excuse, life stresses start getting in the way, I allow it to happen to a degree and build up from that, provided they get better and learn over time. But if it's the same consistent problems, then I really start driving home like, do you actually want this goal? This is what you said you want, this is what you came here for. These behaviors aren't aligning with the actions that you're engaging in and the goals that you've told me. So it's time to assess, is this actually what you want? If we need to simplify it from there, we can. If we need to take it back a step, we can. But yeah, it's got a lot to do to me with the intensity of the goal the client says. Because to me, your effort and accountability, your accountability should be non-negotiable, but your effort and accountability and what I allow as a obstacle or a hurdle or a lapse in discipline is directly proportional to the size of the goal that you tell me that you want. So if you say I want to be a pro bodybuilder, an amateur bodybuilder, I want to get on stage the best condition possible, and you're adding in random food and you're not tracking your macros, you're not sleeping properly, you're going out partying, we're going to start having very big conversations about what these excuses actually are and whether or not they align with the goals that you say you have. So yeah, I think there's definitely a point for it. Some people definitely just need to learn. Like as a coach, your job is to raise people up, for sure. At a certain point though, if those excuses become consistent and they just become flimsy, then yeah, we start calling a spade a spade. go snag one of the Smith machines before someone else takes it. Really good shoulder priming warm-up movement that I like to use to get my shoulders going, especially before things like vertical presses, horizontal presses. I call them banded spider crawls. Basically, fingertips, expanding your hands, try and get your fingers out nice and wide. I like to engage the band, so I'll just use a really thin one, but go like double loop it. Go as wide as you can, hands on the wall. And all you're gonna do is walk your hands up the wall while maintaining tension. Come back to the middle, and all we're gonna do is just individual extensions. Should feel a small pump from it actually, but definitely warms the shoulder socket up. Get stabilizers going and whatnot. When someone's got the itch to prep, where should they actually start? If you've never prepped before, if you've never really dieted before, the itch should not be to start prepping. That's the problem. We've normalized the idea that whilst prep should be accessible to everyone, it doesn't mean that everyone should do it, right? So just because you can run with the football doesn't mean you should play NFL. There's levels to it that you have to get prepared for. So for me, getting a coach and getting a history of periodized deficits, dieting, condition, get leaner, get bigger, put on some muscle mass, actually spend time in the process before you go, oh, I'm gonna go straight to competing. We've done that now where, and like, some people get away with it, some people do it all right, but for the most part, what I found is it's a lot more detrimental than we think. What seems to be most useful is 12, 18, 24 months away from whatever show you think you're doing, get a coach, start the process. Go through periodized diets, go through periodized growth phases, get leaner, because the thing is, the more time you spend being lean, the more time you spend in that position being leaner, the better it's gonna be to handle come showtime or come prep time when it actually gets really, really hard. If you go from a Jenny Craig 6-week challenge to a prep, you're going to absolutely F yourself up. Mentally, physically, psychologically, emotionally, neurologically, it's just a completely different ballgame. So you're actually gonna either start learning to diet, deficit properly, be under the guidance of a coach so you can learn, or at the bare minimum, at least for yourself, start dieting, deficiting, practice be in a position where you're conditioned, start leaner. Don't just come in like, oh, I want to lose weight, and because I want to lose weight, I may as well do a prep. That's not the game here. Somehow it's become the game. So that's just my take anyway. I'm sure other people disagree or have their own opinions. They're wrong. Systems versus motivation. How do you actually build a system that keeps you consistent? So one of the things that I've become really prominent on is systemization. I used to think it was like a tool for myself that worked really well, just understanding me, but the more I do it, the more I've come to realize that systems is better suited for everyone, and everyone needs to systemize their life in some degree. So for me, systems and motivation aren't necessarily separate. Systems kind of falls under discipline and like structure. And that we know is one of the deepest forms of intrinsic motivation. So the key for me is when you're feeling most motivated, most inspired, especially if you're starting something new, you need to standardize and systemize your approach. Spend time refining and reflecting on it. Is it working? People just kind of go after things and throw everything at the wall and see what sticks, and they wonder why shit goes pear-shaped and haywire and it doesn't work out how they wanted. But one of the key tools you need to do, and this is the same with coaching, with business, with being a client, being an athlete, You look at like the NFL, you look at rugby league, you look at these sports, they have game day film, right? They have film review sessions, they have reflections and highlights, because they're assessing every little nook and cranny of the game and what happened, what didn't happen. Same thing with yourself is when you're systemizing stuff, look back on it and see, did it work? Did it play the way that I wanted to? Did it go the way I wanted to? And eventually what happens is when you refine that process enough, you start to narrow down on this structure that helps guide your entire life. So if the motivation does dip, if your system does, if your internal drive does fade a little bit, you have the days where you just don't want to be there. It's the systems that get you up and going. So no matter what, you're in bed at 9 o'clock. You know that your alarm is going off at 5:30. You know that your meals are prepared the night before. You know your gym clothes are ready to go. You know the programs you have to do. You know the work you have to do that day. All these systems reduce friction to execution, and you start to standardize and methodically build out your life so that the goal becomes a matter of when, not if. When you leave it to chance and you don't control the variables, it just becomes this would be nice to happen. When you take that system and structure it properly, it becomes when this happens. So that's probably how I'd answer that question. All right, so what carb strategy are you running with Thomas this week? So after the things we've trialed so far, this will be as of today actually, into the rest of the week. So Tom faded very quickly on the second day after the refeed weekend 2 weeks ago. So what we're doing is I realized that the fullness wasn't holding that we did achieve. So because I want to allow time, because he's been having some digestive issues, I want to make sure there's sufficient time between the last meal Thursday and chance to digest and process stuff for Saturday. We're actually going to do Wednesday, Thursday as the loading days. So like a midweek, what we call like a midweek linear load. Fats will go in today, about 100% increase in fats. So looking at about 100 grams for the day for today. His normal low carbs. So again, we're not trying to drive fullness yet with carbohydrates. So he's still quite low on carbs, but high in fats. And then tomorrow will be 400 carbs. Thursday will be 450 carbs. See how he looks by the last meal, how he's holding, if he's spilling or not. Then we start to induce that diuresis effect. We start introducing herbal tea extracts. We start introducing vitamin C. And then we have Friday will kind of be a look maintenance position. So if we get the look that we want, we'll hold that with food on Friday. Nothing drastic. Cool down the water a little bit after about midday. And then we load slightly on show day just to hold the fullness, hold the look we want to achieve. So be like a bigger meal on the first thing in the morning because he does have 2 categories to do. And yeah, that'll pretty much be it. So very simple, 2 days, Wednesday, Thursday. He doesn't have a large amount of calories, a large amount of carbs this week. I want to see how he comes in with a more tight look, if we can sustain that with easy digestion, and then we'll reassess after that for next week coming into national. So I think with the fats increased, means we can have less carbohydrates and it'll still pop and be full. Water intake is still very high, sodium's nice, potassium's balanced, so it should be in a very good position to respond accordingly, dry out as necessary, pull the water where we want it, drop the water out where we don't want it, and yeah, let the body just kind of do its job. So now it's just rest, relax, and execute. Alrighty guys, so that is the end of today's vlog. I still got a little bit to do. We've combined Tom's training session, his depletion session, my training session. Obviously, by the time this comes out, Tom will be on stage, but make sure you're following along to stay up to date. We'll still do a review and everything after the show so you can watch the actual day behind the scenes type stuff. Make sure that comes out soon. And yeah, we'll keep you updated on Instagram, social media as to what happens with his look, but by then you probably would have seen it. If you are subscribing and following along, prep positions are definitely open. We're looking for comps for next year now, not just season B this year, it's getting too close, season C. So if you want to work with us, if you want to start getting Tom level condition, get on stage in the best position possible, book any consult, reach out, have a chat. Let's make sure that A, we fit and you fit us. So yeah, thanks for coming along, and we'll see Tom this weekend.